Pepper kernel. This one too? I told you what I did.
No, I was a little bit like,
Oh, yeah?
I like to talk about this very often.
Don't do that. So,
Thank you so much. Right, and she was on the boat already to come back. That's my kid.
Call the meeting to order at this time. Roll call.
Mayor Grimes,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wiggins,
Here?
Councilmember Smith,
here.
Councilmember Wallstrom,
Here.
and Councilmember Heckey.
Here.
Everyone is present, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have the invocation. I'm going to ask that you stand for the invocation. Reverend Andy Walker from the Country Oaks Baptist is here to lead us in that invocation. But before we do have that, I would like for all of us to stand and have a moment of silence. A person by the name of Gilbert Gutierrez was flying over our mountains here and crashed on Thursday, and he died. And so let's remember him in a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for letting us live in such a good community. And in light of what our mayor has just said, we pray for the Gutierrez family, that you would bring your comfort and strength to them in their time of grief and sorrow. Thank you for blessing us with good council members and law enforcement officers and all those who serve us as citizens of this great community. We pray that you will bless them for their service, that they will receive as much encouragement as they do criticism. And we ask for your peace to be upon them and upon our community. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please place your hand over your heart. I'll lead us in the pledge. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to remind everyone, tonight is the first night that we are streaming live. So everybody please try to smile and look your best. I did get the broccoli out of my teeth, so you know we're good to go. Oh, it's right here. So this is a you might say an experiment, but we hope everything goes along fine. So our next order of business is consent agenda. Opportunity for the public comment. All items listed with an asterisk are rather the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. At this time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, council?
Item number 4, please, Mayor.
Any other removal? Do I have a motion as amended?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second?
And a second on the item as discussed with the removal of item number 4 for discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Let the motion be 5-aye. The City Council welcomes public comments on any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. We respectfully request that this public forum be utilized in a positive and constructive manner. Persons addressing the council should first state their name and area of residence, the matter of city business to be discussed, and the organization or persons represented, if any. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Keep it in mind that you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mike Walsh. I own property within the city. I do not reside within the city. It's very nervous and scary for me doing this, especially under my current condition. This is regarding a report I made, and I feel sorry that I have to do this because I've had some good contact with the local police department, but unfortunately, I had some very bad contact. I went and filed a complaint, told them I wanted to file a charge of what I believe would be a felony, and I gave them my information at the police station. 2 deputies showed up there. One was a female, and I was never contacted back. The only contact I got back was an officer a few days later came directly to my house, but nothing regarding to that. He was there to, I believe, jam me up, harass me, which is what jam me up, if you're not familiar with that. It's not a police term, what officers do when they just trying to get information out of somebody and stuff. But yeah, came to my house, so knew where I lived, could get hold of me that easy, but never contacted me again regarding this charge against a local political figure in town. And I believe possibly this same political figure was involved with this of reason why this police officer was there. I was not fully prepared to do this. I have information. I have video surveillance recorded of the officer coming to my house. I asked him to please tell me why what I was doing, there was anything wrong with what I was doing. And he said something like, oh, well, you don't want to do that. And I'll look into that and get back to you. And this has been several months ago. I'm still waiting for him to get back to me on what was legal. And there was nothing. I know numerous deputies. My dad served 31 years on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So I'm just very concerned with what's going on with the city and the things that I've personally experienced, that and other things, and wish to put other things on the agenda if they're going on. If not, we'll see many more meetings from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please, did you fill out a card, sir, and give it to our city clerk so that we can get a response back to you? Okay. Okay. Thank you. You want to respond now or later?
Yeah, that's fine. just give me his information and I'll look into it. I'm not familiar with the matter, so I can look at our records and see what the contact was for, and if there was a report made or anything like that, and I'll get in contact with him and let him know.
Excuse me, but I have a report number, I just gotta find it.
Yeah, if you can provide it to me, sir, I'll take care of it.
Okay, any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, let's move along. At this time, I have a proclamation for the Asthma Awareness Month. And is Mary Hash here?
Yes, I am. This is my supervisor, Abby Romo.
Oh, okay.
We're both from Kern County Public Health Department, public health nurses.
Okay. It's a certificate of proclamation presented to the Asthma Coalition of Kern County proclaiming May as Asthma Awareness Month in the city of Tehachapi, signed by myself, Mayor of Tehachapi. And I don't know if anyone has ever experienced asthma attacks or anything of that nature. I don't have asthma, but I have chronic bronchitis, and it bothers me sometimes. And I can just imagine how it is when you have asthma and you can't breathe. And certainly something needs to be done about that. I know there is a lot of childhood asthma. Some children will outgrow it, but some don't. And I had a very dear friend who passed away some years ago as a result of an asthma attack. So it can kill. It can kill. So anyway, this is a proclamation for that. And thank you very much. And do you have anything that you would like to say?
Yes.
Okay.
So we just want to thank the council for the Asthma Awareness Month and for raising awareness on asthma. As you said, it is a top chronic conditions among children in Kern County. And not only the children suffers from asthma, it's their families, it's the parents that lives with these children, and it affects us as a whole community. It affects the loss of work, loss of time in school. It decreases the quality of their life because they have to mind what's triggering their asthma in the community, in school, at home. It also causes a lot of multiple ER visits and hospitalizations. So we're doing our best in the Kern County Asthma Coalition to make sure that we're helping the people in the community to be aware of asthma and what we can do to manage their conditions. I'm going to have Mary talk about our Asthma Coalition.
So on behalf of the Asthma Coalition of Kern County, we would like to formally invite you to the Asthma Symposium. It's at Mercy Downtown on May 22nd from 10:30 to 3:30. I believe they're serving free lunch, and it's free to the community. So they're just gonna go over asthma financing, some home asthma education interventions, and school health and asthma, and then the air quality, so which is a big issue in our county, especially. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we get one photo with the three?
Yeah.
We're gonna take two photos here.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is item number 4. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the minutes from last meeting, I would like to have an amendment made. There was a very specific question that was asked last week. Unfortunately, I understand that the iCloud soundtrack was not uplifted, unless that's changed from recently. Not quite sure why we didn't have a sound recording of last week, but we don't. So what I would like to do is request that the minutes be changed to reflect the question that I very specifically asked last week. And I would like to have the specific answer that was provided to me listed in the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, which question?
I specifically asked a question, it's in the minutes, if you would like to look at that, regarding the FAA and whether or not the city of Tehachapi had received any correspondence from the FAA at the point that we had the meeting last week. And the answer was no, it was not provided, or it was not known that we had any correspondence from the FAA, and I think that's very important that that be reflected.
Greg?
Sure, I can answer that. So at the time Mr. Heckey asked the question, there was no knowledge of the letter. The letter was addressed to Mr. Kirk. Mr. Kirk was on vacation, so it was in his inbox. The day he came back, he gathered his correspondence and we had the letter. So it was, we had it for a couple days, absolutely.
Great, thank you. If we can amend the record to reflect that, I have no further questions or concerns.
When did that come up? When did that question come up?
I think it was during council member comments, is that right? Yeah.
No, that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's up to the council, they can certainly amend the minutes to put it in, but it's not part of the business.
Well, Attorney Schroeder, it's very interesting that my question was presented in the minutes. Unfortunately, an answer wasn't presented. So if we're not going to present an answer to a question, let's not present the question.
Where is the question? That's the one you're talking about? The one that says, Councilmember Hetke asked for an update for a prior agenda item? Is that that's the question?
That is partially related to that. It was the specific question regarding the FAA and whether or not the city had received any correspondence and had any knowledge of any correspondence from the FAA.
That question isn't in there. Is that what you're?
It is. Well, see, unfortunately, Attorney Schroeder, we had a protocol for recording minutes or recording the meetings. Unfortunately, last week we didn't have a recording of that. So we've now lost an entire meeting's worth of documentation. And I think we need to reflect specific council members' questions as it relates to issues that are involving the city and make sure that we've got that documented because we don't have a recording.
It's up to the council.
No, I don't see any problem with it. You know, we can go ahead and put the question and the answer in the minutes. I have no problem with that.
I don't have a problem.
You have to have a motion?
Yeah.
So move.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second on the item as discussed. Item number 4. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 None opposed?
I abstain, I was absent.
You were absent, okay. Let the record show that it's 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Okay? And
Wait, can you repeat the vote, I'm sorry?
it was
And
4
that's-
ayes and 1 abstention.
Okay.
Okay, do I have,
Mr.
a motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important how it's put into the minutes. I think Greg gave his answer, and Mr. Hetke gave his question, and so it should be reflected the way it was handled tonight, because I don't recall what the conversation was at the last meeting.
Okay. Typically, we just record action taken, so it'd be votes taken. That was a comment made as a council member, or comments, updates, things we do at the end. I can certainly add it into that section there.
And I will point out, these are action minutes. These are not discussion minutes. I'm surprised that there was even council discussion in the minutes in the first place. But that's fine to do that if you want to do that.
Mr. Schroeder, I feel that in the respect of complete transparency, we need to be able to discuss as council members and have that information reflected to the public.
Yes, but it's a very difficult, to transcribe that, to summarize what someone just said, to summarize your question. You could see how it got summarized. It wasn't your question. And Greg's answer was not part of the minutes because it's not an action item. So we stopped that years ago. We had minutes that had people coming up here addressing the council in public time, trying to write down what they were saying. And very often it was wrong. So that's why we don't do that as a matter of course. Now the council can change the form of minutes that they want. But this is the way it's been done for years. And if they want a kind of a semi-transcription in the minutes, we can do that. But that'll take a lot more work on the part of the clerk.
Well, quite honestly, I don't feel that we're gonna need that any longer with the current system that we've got. Unfortunately, last week's meeting, not to be argumentative or anything, but we had a void in the recordings. We had been very consistent for months and months, and then all of a sudden we have nothing. So it's important to keep that consistency going forward, so we have absolute transparency. Thank you, that's all I've got, Mayor.
We need to approve the minutes with the amendment that we put in there, okay? Do I have a motion?
We just did that, right?
I think I interrupted the chairman.
All right. Go ahead. You have a motion and a second already, then, correct? And it's amended.
Okay. As amended, we have a motion and a second on the item as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Abstain. 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Okay. Moving on, item number 6, the assistant manager report.
Evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. The item before you tonight is the introduction of an ordinance regarding sewer lateral maintenance and repair, how that's to be conducted within the city of Tehachapi. As the council might be aware, current city ordinance codified in municipal code section 8.44.020.c places the responsibility for maintenance, repair, and replacement of private sewer laterals from the parcel boundary of a property to its connection to the city's sewer system or within the public rights of way. Over the last few years, this has become an increasing problem for us from an operational standpoint. Our sewer or wastewater department staff are neither tooled for nor capable of, just from a civil operational standpoint, of providing routine and ongoing maintenance of private sewer laterals. And there's some good reason for that, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. In order to maintain public health, the city constructed a public sewer system. As you're aware, that consists primarily of a collection system made up of main lines, some sewer lift stations to deal with negative grades where we have to pump the sewage uphill, so it comes, it flows via gravity back to the wastewater treatment plant, and then that sewage is treated at the wastewater treatment plant, and the solid and liquid byproducts are disposed of, consistent with our waste discharge report, which is given to us, or waste discharge requirements, which are given to us by the state of California. Connecting to that publicly owned and operated sewer system requires sewer laterals. So from the building of a home to the sewer main, which is owned and operated by the city, a pipe, for all intents and purposes, a small pipe is connected from the collection system in the property owner's building or home back to that main. That sewer lateral, as you can imagine, only serves the property owner. It's not intended to serve anyone other than the property owner and the building is located on that property. And it can't be shut off like a water service can, so we have very little control over what comes and goes through that sewer line, sewer lateral, or what's planted over the top of it. And often root intrusion from trees is one of the primary issues associated with sewer lateral maintenance. Traditionally, and in other jurisdictions, the homeowner is responsible, or property owner is responsible for the sewer lateral that serves their property, for maintenance, repair, replacement, any issues associated with that sewer lateral. As a few examples, Bakersfield, that's the situation. I couldn't find any other cities in Kern County that was not the issue or the situation. LA County, For their consolidated sewer system, the property owner is required to maintain the lateral. And in Ventura, I was actually interested as I was doing some internet research about how these situations are dealt with. In Ventura, you're even responsible as the property owner for damage done by city-owned trees. So if the city plants a tree over your lateral and the roots intrude, you are still responsible. So anyway, it was kind of interesting to see how other communities handle it, but generally speaking, and in all instances that I am aware of and the wastewater staff are aware of, the sewer lateral is solely the responsibility of the property owner which it serves. And this makes some sense because there's not a clear line of demarcation between the city system and the property owner's system on that sewer lateral. The only point at which it's clear that it goes from the city's responsibility to the property owner's responsibility is at the connection to the main, and that's how other communities handle it. Unlike water systems where we have a lateral that serves that property, we have a water meter. And everything on our side of the meter is our responsibility, and everything on the property owner's side of the meter is their responsibility. There's not that clear line of demarcation in the sewer system. So nevertheless, with that as a little bit of background, again, as we've worked through implementing this ordinance, there have been some unintended consequences of the current language. Again, our city wastewater staff are not equipped to perform much of the maintenance associated with sewer lateral maintenance and repair, things like cutting out roots and having small enough hoses and cameras to be able to go into sewer laterals. Those are typically things that are done by licensed plumbing professionals. And so in the instances where we've had to perform some kind of maintenance or repair, that's either had to be done by contract or has been done by a plumbing professional before we found out about it. And frankly, we don't want to take work away from licensed local plumbers who are doing that work already. But we also don't want to increase the burden of having to reconstruct concrete and asphalt within the public right of way, because often that's the most expensive part of doing sewer lateral maintenance, repair, or replacement. If you have to dig up a sewer lateral that's in someone's front yard, the digging is both easy. There's no material to haul away typically, because it's going to be replaced back where you got it from. And so the cost to do that is much less expensive than if that issue occurs within the public right of way underneath concrete sidewalk, curb gutter, or asphalt, where you have to both remove and haul away the material, and there's typically expense associated with disposing of that material that's removed and hauled away. And you have to put it back, and you have to put it back to city standard, because we don't want somebody to cut our street and then not put it back to our standard, and then that patch job fail at a future date. So that can be an expensive proposition for a homeowner. So we think what we've come up with is an appropriate middle ground, and that is the ordinance before you tonight. But more specifically, that ordinance places the responsibility for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of private laterals on the private property owner, and not just the section outside of the public right of way, which is the current situation under the municipal code. But if that maintenance, repair, replacement of the lateral requires removal of any sub-base material, base material, asphalt, or concrete, curb, gutter, or sidewalk, then the property owner or contract will first get an encroachment permit from us. That's an official action that tells us they intend to deconstruct part of our right of way. For all intents and purposes, they're gonna saw cut and demolish and remove part of publicly owned right of way and infrastructure. So they get an encroachment permit from us, and then at the same time, the contractor will provide the public works director with an estimate of costs. And then upon approval of that estimate, the contractor can begin work. And then if those steps have been followed and then a sewer cleanout is installed at the property owner's property line, which is consistent with our current city standards, so all new properties are to be constructed with a sewer cleanout, and that's basically where the lateral comes up via one cleanout pipe up to grade, so that a plumber could then go into that cleanout and clean out to the main, or go into the cleanout and go up to the structure that's being served by the sewer lateral. But again, once the approval of the estimate's been done, the contractor can do the work, and if a sewer cleanout is installed pursuant to city development standards, then the city would pay for the cost of the replacement of any of the sub-base material, asphalt, or concrete, curb, gutter, and sidewalk, because we're gonna want that to be done to our standards, so we think that it makes sense that in those instances that we can pay for that expense. But if we feel like the estimate is too high for us, then we would reserve the right to perform that removal or replacement of that material at the discretion of the Public Works Director. So in summary, that's the issue before you tonight. Again, the ordinance just amends that section 8.44.020.c of the sewer ordinance. And that is basically the definition of a lateral and who's to maintain that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Is there any questions from the audience regarding this issue? Council?
All right. I get a sewer backup. It's Friday or Saturday evening, after hours. The guy's up there, he says, it's in the street, I gotta get my backhoe now. And I can't wait till Monday for an encroachment permit. What are you gonna do?
So typically in those scenarios, there's a couple of issues. One, it depends on the nature of what that blockage is. If it's root intrusion, oftentimes that can be dealt with fairly quickly. If it's a collapsed sewer lateral, and there's a variety of different material types that have been used over the decades to construct sewer laterals, some are more robust than others. But some of the less robust options have a tendency to collapse and plug the line. If that's the case, then that removal and replacement have to be done. But we have an on-call number, and that on-call number at Public Works goes directly to an operator 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day outside of normal business hours, and then it just goes to our regular line. But if you call City Hall, you're prompted to, if you have a water or sewer emergency, push a button and it will automatically forward your call to our on-call Public Works employee. They can come out and assess the situation. If they feel like it's something that needs to be dealt with immediately, if we're having an immediate backup into a home, there's a couple of different ways that a plumber can handle that. They can do some pumping to alleviate that backup immediately. That obviously doesn't restore the service, so if they need to do that work right away, we have the flexibility now, and I think in reasonable circumstances, we maintain that flexibility with the Public Works Director's discretion to do outside of an encroachment permit if necessary. And typically, the encroachment permit is much more important to us. We would require them to come in and file one as soon as we got back to normal business hours. But typically, that encroachment permit is more important to us about the replacement of the infrastructure than it is the demolition of the infrastructure. And frankly, in addition to that, a plumbing contractor or anyone that's gonna do that demolition work doesn't wanna demolish any more than they have to. So typically, the demolition is pretty narrowly focused, and we're just
The part of the street, then you could typically in a downtown neighborhood, the alleys here, your repair will be to city standards while the rest of the alley is falling apart, so.
And we've actually had that situation just recently. In particular, the gentleman that is rehabilitating the old Masonic Temple on Green Street, sewer laterals in the alley. The alley is not to city standard, and we accepted the responsibility of putting it back to the way that we wanted it, knowing that he was very unlikely to bring it to city standard while the rest of the alley was already in difficult shape. So that's part of the reason why we want to leave a caveat that in our discretion, we could decide if we wanted to replace it ourselves.
All right, sounds like a little common sense is baked into this, so
That's the hope anyway.
I'm happy with that. All right, thanks.
Go ahead.
And in the future, I would recommend that when you let people build housing tracts, that you don't locate the sewer clean out underneath my sidewalk.
That requires good city inspection, which we believe we have now, and that can be difficult. During the housing boom in particular, there were so many houses going up, I think in 2005 and 2006, that was difficult
Well,
for
no,
even city
this was
inspectors to
built
keep up with.
in the late 80s.
Now, during the late 80s, I won't tell you how old I was, but for me, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was born in the late 80s. I was
No,
born
I
before,
had
I was born before the late 80s.
I had a plumber who came in the winter and poked all over my flower beds and then poked holes in all of my sprinkler system. And then I found another plumber who came with whatever, some kind of device and said, well, what do you know, it's right smack dab underneath there. So I was lucky that he didn't charge me a lot, but that was just, I'm like, who does that?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't wanna have that happen again.
We are much more concerned about making sure that new housing tracts are built to city development standards, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions the council has? Yes.
myself. Are we gonna do the water ordinance like this too? Because there's just the same amount of confusion of, you know.
I don't know that that's necessary, only that, if you mean in terms of the replacement of the concrete and asphalt,
Yeah.
you know, in almost every instance that I'm aware of, frankly, in every instance that I'm aware of, there might be some out there that I don't know about, but the meter is located, either in the sidewalk or behind the sidewalk. And so anytime there's an issue within public right of way, we already own it anyway, because it's on our side of the meter. So we're already, our water staff, in fact, I think last year, I'll get the number wrong, but I know it was close to about 168 water service line replacements or repairs. Every single one of those requires cutting the asphalt typically. And we do that and we replace it. You can imagine in what equates to, you know, a couple of hundred work days that out of 168 water sewer lateral repairs or replacements, that's most of what our water guys do on a daily basis. But again, we do all that work already because it already belongs to us because it's on our side of the meter.
No, I think you got me a little bit wrong.
Oh, sure.
I'm just wondering, because I know the people will come up, they're out of water, it's their line in the middle of their, under the tree usually. They want us to fix it all, you know? And, you know, it makes you feel bad, but, you know, you just can't.
Yeah, I think in short, I'd have to go back and look at what our current ordinance says in relation to the water service line on the property owner's side of the meter. I don't know if it's specified, only because I haven't looked in this context. But I know that as long as I've been here, and I think long beforehand, I'm sure you agree that typically anything on the property owner's side of the meter
Private property
is theirs.
is all
And that's been a long-held practice here in the city of Tehachapi. I suspect that that's tied back to some ordinance or policy.
That's in the
I mean,
road,
I
I
honestly
think it's,
haven't
I think
looked
it's
at
in the road and, streets and roads.
Okay, I'd have to go back and look at it for sure, because again, I didn't look at it in this context, but good question.
Any other questions? Okay, this is the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 636, 678, and 712, and replacing section 8.44.020.c of the Tehachapi Municipal Code relating to sewer laterals. Do I have to have a motion on that?
Yes.
I will make a motion to introduce the ordinance as read by title only by the mayor just now.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the item as discussed. Item number 6. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. 5 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor Grimes. I'll ask Tori to pull up the slides so you can follow along. There's some really great stuff to report to you this evening. Things that have happened over the last week or two and some upcoming events. It's loading. Well, in the economic development world, I'll just start with that. So we had a couple of grand reopenings. Canine Creek, a grand reopening, so congratulations to them. Save Mart, if you haven't been to Save Mart, they completely remodeled the store and had a grand reopening. I know Mayor Grimes was there helping them with that ribbon cutting, and we appreciate them stepping it up and providing a higher quality service to our city and our community. Also, Metro PCS, it's a cellular company, had a grand opening, ribbon cutting over in the Save Mart Center, so congratulations to them also. In the Public Safety Department, Tehachapi Police Department collected over 251 pounds, 251 pounds of prescription medication last week on our drug take back day. I think is that a national event?
Yes.
Yes, it's a national event. So people really took advantage of that. We're happy to be able to accommodate them, get those drugs, prescription drugs, out of the hands of potential adolescents, and then people flushing them down the toilet. We do not want people flushing prescription drugs down the toilet. It can contaminate our system. So we appreciate everybody's taking the drugs back. And then Chief continues with his accreditation manager training. That's a big deal. You remember we came to the City Council several months ago and talked about getting Tehachapi Police Department accredited. So that is a very big job. I think Chief was told a couple hours a week. I think it's actually a couple hours a day that he has to put in getting this done. But when we're done, we're going to be accredited, and it's going to be a great thing for our police department. Also, the Tehachapi Police Foundation, we had a couple foundation members here at a meeting or two ago, is hosting a banquet. The first annual banquet is coming up, honoring the Thin Blue Line. It's on May 18th, and I believe tickets are still for sale. So if anybody would like to attend that event, please see the Police Foundation. Public Works, we're getting ready to start installing our American flags on the downtown streetlights. Just a beautiful look. There are some opportunities if you'd like to adopt a flag. I know several of the city council members have adopted flags, staff, and city and county residents alike. So we're very excited about that program. And of course, conducting weekly water sampling to our freshwater supply. That's obviously very, very important. Up front, Tori and Ashley and the crew processed 549 payments and 59 passports just this last week. We held a strategic planning meeting by our executive staff talking about how we're going to be moving forward. I'm going to be very excited. I'm very excited to be able to share that with the city council and the public here very soon. Mayor Grimes is a photo of Mayor, there you go, Mayor Grimes cutting the ribbon for the Little Library Eagle Scout project downtown. It's between City Hall and City Hall Annex. It's actually being used a lot. I have, going between the buildings, people are there putting in books, taking out books. It's really well used, so shocking, but very cool, very cool. So thank you to Orion for that, and that was his Eagle Scout
And
project.
it's in a good spot.
It is in a very good spot, and when we talked about it, we thought that would be a good spot to put it. Upcoming events, Main Street has Farmers Market starting this Thursday, and that's gonna be on Green Street between Tehachapi Boulevard and that, so we're very excited about Farmers Market coming back and what Main Street is bringing to our city and downtown. A couple grand openings coming up, Sheridan's Annex, the Nail Chateau and Spa, and the Lucky Truck coming up in May. So look at the Chamber of Commerce calendar for those dates. Please attend them if you can. This last weekend, the community of Tehachapi, thank you to Lehigh Southwest Cement, hosted the NICA High School Mountain Bike Race. This is the second annual for Tehachapi anyway. There were over 3,000 visitors. There were several hundred riders, just a huge success. If you drove by or maybe flew over the area out directly south of Loves, there were hundreds, north of Loves, hundreds of trailers, and it was a weekend event, and everybody had a really good time. It was very competitive, and I think they're going to be back in a bigger way too, so very excited about that. This Thursday is National Day of Prayer. The Kiwanis starts the morning at the St. Malachy's Church with a prayer breakfast. I understand Coach Denman will be speaking, and then in front of City Hall at noon on Robinson Street, there will be a prayer event with different pastors from the community praying for our city and our community. And May 14th, don't forget, Happy Mother's Day, so be good to your mother. Thank you very much.
Just to reiterate a little bit on the National Day of Prayer, the featured speaker is going to be our legendary coach, Steve Denman. And he recently retired with 301 victories, which is in the top 10 all of California ever. And so he's going to be talking that day, and in relation to the idea of how he got kids to perform and things of that nature. He was one of a kind, and I'm looking forward to that particular speech. In the recent past, we did away with the airport commission, and as a result, we provided resolution 37-13, which said that we had to have 2 resident voters to the Tehachapi Airport Committee and also a council member. to discuss any kind of issues that were arising with the airport and things of that nature. I want at this time to direct staff to advertise for the appointment of 2 resident voters within the city of Tehachapi for the formation of the Tehachapi Airport Committee, and place the appointment of 1 council member to the Tehachapi Airport Committee on a future agenda. We need to advertise it. I would rather do it in one full swoop and not do it piecemeal, you know. So, if we can do that, I think we can get to business on the resolution.
No, he can direct staff to do it. It's already approved through the resolution.
All right, we're good.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Any questions by the council? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just read a prepared statement that I have regarding this particular issue. It is my request that agenda item number 8 for discussion and vote at this evening's meeting be withdrawn from the docket. As you may recall, the Tehachapi Airport Committee under Resolution 3713 was created to fill a void left by the abolished Airport Commission, as you mentioned. Unfortunately, this resolution and its generic content do not define a clear mission statement for those involved. Unlike the abolished Airport Commission, whose role and function were well defined in the ordinance, the Tehachapi Airport Committee has nothing of the sort. Since none of those roles or functions have been defined or publicized to the Council of North Citizens, how can we effectively ask for appointments when the appointees know nothing of their role? The Tehachapi Municipal Airport is an economic engine for our community and for Eastern Kern County as a whole. We must ensure that any committee or entity tasked with the oversight or input to this facility be well-versed in the vocation and have a clear understanding of what their role must be. Additionally, the committee, as proposed in Resolution 3713, includes the city manager and the airport director. Both of these positions and individuals are city employees and may bias any open and forthcoming dialogue associated with any matters related to the airport. As with the Planning Commission, the body must be comprised of members of the public and offer unbiased input based on information they receive. Not only will this committee be required to work within both local and state guidelines, they will also be required to understand and work with legislation dictated by the federal law, being the FAA. It is my opinion we will be doing a disservice to our citizens should we proceed with this agenda item as written without further defining the function and the goals of this committee and ensuring those involved understand the seriousness of their participation. And I will submit that copy of this to the city clerk for filing.
Okay. Go ahead.
I believe that's a motion to withdraw that item.
It is.
That's a second.
Okay, that is a motion to withdraw.
I would like to, yes, I would like to withdraw that item.
Okay, do I have a second?
You know, I think this merits a little more discussion.
We need a second before you can discuss it. Well, you can withdraw the motion, and I guess, let's don't get bogged
No,
down.
my motion stands that we need to withdraw this agenda item until we have additional time and input from all of us involved in this to better understand what this means for the community.
I'll make a comment. Since this is not an action item, this is an item that we're just directing staff to advertise for the committee. There is no major rush to do this. If there's a need for more clarification, I'd say we just table it for now. And that would be, you directed staff to do that. You can rescind that direction if you please, and just get a little bit more input from council members, input from staff, a little bit more clarification. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So are you seconding the motion? Or are you just basically,
I'm basically saying there's no vote to be taken on this, is that correct?
well, there is, the councilman wants the item tabled. And it sounds, I don't know.
Well, I don't need to vote on it to table it, is what I'm saying.
Well,
So the mayor could just rescind it and it makes the need for a motion moot,
Well,
so
the mayor can withdraw his own item, sure.
if you'd like to do that. Or we can vote.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
Now you're putting the pressure on me.
Well, can I just ask a couple of comments? First and foremost, the city manager and the airport manager would not be biased. There's no, we would not do that. The only reason we put this on the agenda was to further the advancement of what we're doing at the airport. We want to better understand, we want to better manage, we want to move forward in a positive, diligent way. So we thought it was prudent to put this on. So there are a couple, when this was passed back in 2013, when the airport commission was dissolved, it was stated that at such time when this is needed, we believe that maybe this is that time, we should form a committee. The committee would then recommend to the city council different items that have to do with the ownership and the management of the airport. So it's made up of the city manager, the airport manager, a council member, and 2 members of the city of Tehachapi voters. They would have to fill out an application, just like your planning commissioners, just like your park and rec directors, and they would be competing for the job, right? They would be interviewed by you and selected by you. So that was the concept, but if you want to table this, I'm fine with that. We can continue to think about it and move forward in a different way, a more diligent, slower manner, if you will.
And I have to emphasize, I am not against this advisory committee. This particular committee is crucial for the healthy operation of one of our fantastic facilities and assets that we have in the city of Tehachapi. My only concern is, unlike, and I'll just restate what was read earlier, unlike the abolished airport commission, if you go back and look at the ordinance, there were specific criteria that the airport commission worked within. With the advisory committee, the way it's set up right now, I mean, quite honestly, we have just a generic commentary. There's nothing specific, and I cannot emphasize enough that there are certain things and stipulations that must be satisfied at the airport, and unless we do that with people that are very well suited for that task, I think we've undercut ourselves. And I'm not against it. We just need to take a step back. Let's refine and define what we want this advisory committee to do, and at that point, let's go full speed ahead.
My input would be, I'm all in favor of a committee to provide advice, but I don't want to get caught up that these have to be experts in aviation. These need to be citizens of the community, aware of where their taxpayers are going, whether they're a pilot or not is not the issue. It's just, what are we doing at the airport and your input out there. So I don't want to, they're not going to be voting on FAA regulations or whatever. Our staff is fully versed in that already. And this is just an advisory committee, but I'm all in favor of, if you want to rescind it, we just step back and get a little bit more clarification. I think that's what you want to. No problem with that.
Okay. The pressure's on me, so let's go ahead, Dennis.
Greg, do we have it's 2-2, do we have a tiebreaker? Do we need another person as a tiebreaker?
There's 5 on that.
5? Well, there's 2 of you guys and 2 of the people who have.
There would be 5 if the committee were, you're talking about the committee or the city council at this point?
No, the committee.
The committee, there would be 5.
Okay, well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw a council member and city manager, and then 2 members of the.
And airport manager. At this point, it would be Ryan, our public works director, right? And again, it's only an advisory, we're not a decision-making body.
Okay, I think, you know, the consensus of the, council at this time is that, that I withdraw, the directive, at this time, and, we can, get into further discussion in terms of how it's going to be put together, so, I'll go ahead and withdraw that directive at this time. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, council members, we'll start with you, Dennis. You got anything to?
Yeah, I did, I had something in my head. Still didn't figure it out. So, if I remember by the end, and if I touch Phil, he does the same thing.
We're not gonna reconvene.
No, I wrote mine down at the beginning, so I've got this done. On the water, the state of California has been declared the drought's over. Are we still gonna enforce restrictions, or will this be, more? Because everyone's aware, and I don't think everyone's gonna just go out and start wasting water, but if someone needed to water their lawn on an off day, they're gonna be allowed to do that. Are the restrictions lifted that are formal? You can only do it in certain hours, but, you know, or we're gonna announce that just be prudent, continue with your water saving, efforts, but if someone wants to, if they need to water their lawn, it's getting really dry, they've been on vacation or whatever,
Or working on their sprinklers.
or working on their sprinklers, was that your question? You know, there's gotta be some common sense, just curious if the restrictions are gonna be formally lifted.
The restrictions are not planned on being formally lifted. We're gonna keep those in place for now, because the drought could come and go quickly, right? The snowpack is already melting at a record rate. But we don't have water police out enforcing. People are really good about using their own common sense, and we do too. So we're gonna keep the rules in place as of right now. But people have been really good. We're not out chastising or writing tickets. It just is not happening. So the public has been really good with this asset we have.
Thank you.
Susan? Ken?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question to city staff, similar to what I had last meeting that drove the discussion earlier. Have we received any further information or knowledge of things that are happening with the city of Tehachapi pertaining to the FAA? Have we heard anything more from the FAA regarding our option 4 pertaining to the event center motocross track? That's just a question to you, Mr. Garrett.
Chris, I'm gonna ask you to come up to the podium and answer that question. I am not aware of anything.
Just as a point of clarification, are you talking about any additional correspondence between, aside from what we've already received and that Greg sent an email about last week?
That is correct.
No, we have not received anything else from the FAA.
You have not received anything else from the FAA, the city of Tehachapi?
About the event center, or just from the FAA?
About anything in general regarding the FAA?
Oh, sure, yeah, we received a letter, that, I think I know what you're referring to, so I think we could just come out and say it. The FAA sent us a letter notifying us they would be here, from May 9th to the 11th, conducting an airport land use inspection and audit of our facility, to ensure that we are abiding by their regulations. Is that what you're referring to?
That is what I was referring to.
Yes,
the
we
city
have
of
received
Tehachapi
that
is
letter.
prepared for that inspection?
Absolutely.
We're always prepared. Auditors are at City Hall almost every day.
Fantastic.
Audited from the state, the federal government, local, current COG, it just goes on and on and on. I consider an audit an extension of my staff. So we wanna know what's going on, we wanna make sure that we dot every I and cross every T.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, the only thing I have is, just relative to what Phil was saying, the drought restrictions are still not lifted. I do have a very green lawn, but it's because my next door neighbor, when he waters his, the wind blows all of his water over to my lawn, so my lawn is being watered every day. So, just because it's green doesn't mean I'm violating anything. But the other thing, Saturday we had, I guess I'm bragging a little bit. Saturday, we had a track meet with the junior high kids down at Liberty High School. And I want to tell you, two of the kids that we had are really, really elite runners. One of them ran the mile in 4:42. He's an 8th grader. Came back and ran a half mile in 2:30 or 2:20. And you got to understand, that's fast. There's a lot of high school kids that don't do that. And this is an 8th grader. And a 7th grader was almost as fast. So, you know, we've got a great bunch of kids up here. And that's the reason why my face is so red, because I was out in the sun all day and, you know, I forgot my hat. And I know I'll pay for it later. But it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed being a track coach for the kids. And with that said, we're going to go into closed session. If there's anything that needs to be reported out, we'll report it at the time that we come out. Thank you.